West Texas politics. They're West Texas politics. In fact, they're so West Texas, I had to come to West Texas to talk to somebody running for Midland City Council. We talked to them on this episode of The Crude Truth.
In 1901, at Spindletop Hill near Beaumont, the future of Texas changed dramatically as, like a fountain of fortune, thousands of barrels of oil burst from the earth towards the sky. Soon, Detroit would be cranking out Model Ts by the millions, and America was on the move, thanks to the black gold being produced in Texas. Now, more than a century later, the vehicles are different, but nothing else has truly changed. Sure, there may be many other alternative energy sources like wind and solar and electric. But let's be honest, America depends on oil and entrepreneurs, and if the USA is truly going to be independent, it has to know the crude truth.
This episode is brought to you by LFS Chemistry. We are committed to being good stewards of the environment. We are providing the tools so you can be too. NAPE Expo, where deals happen. Air Compressor Solutions. When everything is on the line, Air Compressor Solutions is the dependable choice to keep commercial business powered up. Sandstone Group. Exec Crew. Elevate your network, elevate your knowledge. Texas Star Alliance. Pecos Country Operating. Fueling our future.
Well, good afternoon, good morning, hello as always, and thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Crude Truth. We kind of just dove into this episode, but how exciting it is. You know what, for those of you that always watch, and thank to many of y'all and thousands and hundreds of millions that watch the show, this is actually my second episode within probably 3 weeks of recording that I'm actually doing another Friday episode, and the vibe is different on a Friday, and I love it. I love it. But not only is the vibe different this time, but the location is different. Today, things are getting so tense and so amazing in West Texas that I had to travel to West Texas, and I'm here at 40 Wolves Production Studios, head up by Ryan Schuchuk. Ryan, thank you so much for allowing us to be here today. But of course, my production team, as always, is Real News and Sandstone. But Ryan, thank you very, very much for the opportunity.
It's like that awesome studio, by the way.
Right? This is like your 6th or 8th time here.
It's something like that.
Right?
Yeah, maybe not that, but.
My guest today is, yes, this is of no surprise, is an amazing sponsor of the show. My guest today, but today he's not coming to me as a sponsor. He's coming today as a candidate for Midland Place 1, Bryan Stubbs.
Yes,
Bryan,
sir.
how are you?
Doing fantastic.
Oh my gosh.
Living the West Texas dream. This is it.
You are the epitome of somebody that can come out here and create the West Texas dream.
I've been telling everybody on the campaign trail, like, it is not me. Like, just the amount of support you get in this town, if you're willing to get involved and work hard, it's amazing. Like, this town and this industry just supports all these small companies that grow and do amazing things. And like I said, I'm just very grateful to be a beneficiary of that.
But you talk about the beneficiary, and you and I think since the day we met, one of the things I said that I enjoyed about Air Compressor Solutions, sponsor of The Crude Truth, but no, one thing that the day we met was how you are giving back to the community.
You know, I've been in the oil business for a little bit, and, you know, just the competition is so tough. You got to differentiate yourself, and taking care of your employees is the best way to do it. And again, we've got some really dedicated employees just because we're there for them. And, growing up, I always heard, hey, work for a family orientated company. And I thought I did for once. And then it turned out, they're just a business. But being family orientated in the oil business, because the expectations are high, you got to react fast. You got to do a lot of things. Hey, we're going to take care of your family while you're at work is just actually an amazing way to run a business. And it's been incredibly rewarding to run a business that way. And that's the way they all should be ran, in my opinion.
Well, no, that's exactly right. They all should be ran that way, because we've talked about it. And I'll look at the camera. It's like the majors have come out here for almost 100 years now, and they have sucked this city dry. And you never see them actually reinvest in this community. And I think that's what's hurt Midland and West Texas.
So I would say that there's a core group that reinvest a lot, and you'll see them have just a different level of employee. We want to work for those companies that invest and are involved, and have their name on sponsorships at the ball field or the Little League field or whatever it is. And that's really kind of what separates some of these companies in Midland is how they give back to the community.
Right.
And it is a differentiator. When you're going and looking for an employee, or, my son, when in a couple of years, he's going to be looking for a job, right? Like, I'm going to tell him, go look at these 4 or 5 that you see their name at the ball field and you see their name at charity events or whatever it is, because they understand what it means to take care of employees, because you have to take care of the employee, you have to take care of the community to really grow. And then you even look back at the ones that have grown really rapidly. Yeah. They're usually the ones that give back in a very special way. So it's crazy.
There's no doubt about it. You have grown rapidly. I think in just the 5-6 years that we've known each other now, which, has it been that long?
Yes, I think it's been 5 years.
Right? Yeah. That I can't thank you enough. I always do. I guess. So thank you. Y'all have grown exponentially, and it's all been in the West Texas, like Panhandle, which a lot of people consider West Texas. New Mexico, which, who we're kidding? That's
a different one.
That's West Texas still. You have done nothing but give back to this community as well. So, I mean, the success that you've had, I think, would translate to the city of Midland, because God knows they need great people like you right now.
Yeah, and that's really why I want to run for city council is and I tell everybody who talks to me, growing a business is the hardest thing I've ever done. It's you got to make 20 decisions a day, and you kind of have to be okay with 18 of them are going to be wrong, because you just don't have the information you need. You got to make progress. You got to move forward, and you're going to change that decision in a couple of days. That's just how you grow. And we didn't talk before, but as of Monday, we're 102 employees.
Whoa.
Like it's been, I think we were 18 when I bought it. So it's just been an amazing growth spurt of how do you get people in? How do we get them kind of acclimated to our culture, which is really about, selflessness and giving back to the company and the environment or the community, and still trying to grow and do some amazing things. And so it has been just an amazing ride to see, going in and getting your hands dirty and figuring problems out and solving problems while you go, and to get to this point. So yeah, we've gone from 1 location to 5.
Okay.
And from about 18 employees to 102 as of Monday.
Well, I'm glad you said the 1 location, because I was like, that was the 1 location.
Yeah,
and that was in Odessa.
It was.
Now, I know you're running for Midland, but you look at West Texas as a whole. And I think that is important, because the Midland Odessa thing is just like Dallas Fort Worth, right?
Yeah.
But yet when it comes time to band together, DFW bands together. And I think that's something that you are fighting a lot for, is let's get those 2 together and win, because a lot of things haven't been a win for both. And, I could maybe even talk about, I'll throw a wrench out there, Bass Pro Shop.
Yep.
That wasn't a win for both cities.
It wasn't. And again, I don't expect us to kind of, be best friends during a process like that, where we're trying to get a name brand commercial name in the city. But on other things, we need to be. And there's one of the reasons I want to run is there's some really neat growth problems that are coming to Midland.
Right.
One of them is that the Midland city limits goes well into Martin County.
Okay.
And we need to make sure we have a great relationship with Martin County, because we need to talk about water and roads and even schools. Like, where are those kids going to go to school?
Yeah.
And we need to figure that out. Right now, those kids are allowed to come to MISD, but we need to make sure we understand at what point does that not make sense anymore? At what point do we need to change or make a formal agreement or whatever that is? So one of the big things I've learned in my nonprofit world is and done a lot of education work in the nonprofit world. As soon as Midland ISD raises salaries for teachers, they get an influx. Mm-hmm. Well, 2 years later, Ector County raises theirs, and they get all those teachers back. And we have this constant back and forth. We need to figure out how we work together and stuff like that. And, even, Midland city limits goes all the way up to Midland County line, but Ector County has a lot of residents they live in Odessa, but they're in Midland County.
Yeah.
And that's really strange. And they actually go to Midland schools. So, there's a lot of reasons that the Midland city needs to reach out to the Midland Hospital District, the county, Martin County, Odessa, Ector County. We need to build those relationships. And I think that's really critical to our growth, because as soon as one does something better, we need to make sure that we're playing together so we can bring all up at the same time and not have this back and forth and kind of competition, because that doesn't really help the taxpayers at the end of the day.
Right. And because, again, you guys are all just so close together. I mean, when people think of West Texas, they think of it as a whole.
Mhm.
Now, District 1, which is what you're running
Yep.
for, what all does that entail? What all does that cover?
So it's pretty much, again, I don't know who drew these lines because they're hard to explain, but it's pretty much north of the Loop and east of Midland Drive all the way out to the county. But we do kind of dip down between Midland Drive all the way over to Midkiff down to Wadley, and then a little bit, is it north of Haynes between Midkiff and Garfield. So it's a weird little section, but Scott Dufford's old seat. That's the easiest way.
Well, I believe you. How about that?
Yes. Go look it up. There's a map online. Type in Midland City Council map and it'll show up, but it's confusing.
I remember that a couple of years ago, you were like, this city we need to do a few things. And at first, full disclosure, I thought you were talking about Odessa because we were sitting at your office in Odessa, and you're like, RT, we need some things. And but again, for somebody because you're not a lifelong Odessa or Midland person.
I wish.
Yeah, right.
I got here as soon as I can. But yeah, it wasn't lifelong.
But it's like, but you have embraced it. Your kids are here.
Mhm.
Your kids are growing up. And again, you employ so many people here in town. You understand that. And I think in this day and age, you need people that understand the community, and that is definitely something that you continue to do here in town.
Yes. Like I said, through my nonprofit work, I've done schools at, Bunch Elementary School, which is kind of on the south side of town. And just being in that school, like you can just learn a lot walking into that school and seeing what families are going through and how they're surviving and the troubles and the, hurdles and kind of roadblocks they have. And so it really does see that, there is a lot of wealth and opportunity in Midland, but you have to see it to be a part of it too, right? So we need to get that to everybody in Midland and really explain, if you're willing to work hard, if you're willing to kind of do what's right, we can find you success in Midland, but you got to be willing to put in the time, get involved, and really grow this town. And, it's amazing to me that, don't quote me on the number, I think it's 47% of students at MISD are on free and reduced lunches. Okay. Like that is an amazing statistic. And that's something that we as a community need to own and understand. Wow. That is something that goes on in Midland. So
now let me ask you this, and I apologize to everybody out there if I sound stupid, but if 50% are on reduced lunches, does that mean also that 50% are in a lower bracket?
Yeah, and the state's kind of moved those around as I really looked at the data, but it's not impoverished by any means. So the reduced lunch kind of starts at the median, I think. So, it's not like they're impoverished or anything like that, but it is definitely, they're not living what people from outside of Midland think they are. And again, it's hard because the cost of living is high. We don't have a lot of, we don't have certain services like good medical and stuff where you still have to go to Dallas or Lubbock or something to get specialized healthcare. And so that's what makes it hard is if not everybody is participating in that, then we're not doing what's right by the city.
You mentioned that Midland doesn't have the hospital, that type of care. And I can just go back. And again, I want to talk about when we opened up and I said, hey, there's companies out here. I'm talking about the majors. I'm talking about Exxon, Chevron, the old Gulf. They came out here. They sucked this town literally dry, didn't put anything back into it. And you and I have talked about it. City of Bentonville, Arkansas, Walmart headquarters. Those are, now granted, it is Arkansas. That's the best school district in the state. And Walmart believes that if they want to have the best employees, they need to have the best of everything else. And you're talking about that we can't even get, and we like I'm here, but you made me come out here, by the way. And I go, hey, I want to get you on to come. You go, well, you got to come to Midland because I'm running for Midland. But anyway, it's like, what can you guys do to convince to get better medical out here, better things, better school districts, so that all these companies can get top tier talent to go along with it?
Yeah, that's what, again, I think it's really a big part of the growth of Midland. And if you look at kind of the Oh, probably. Well, I've been here 10 years. So definitely the last 10 years. Again, those companies that are kind of based here and grew up here and have deep roots here, they're amazing companies and they give back more than any company I've ever heard of. And actually, I think some of them, when they went public, got dinged for how much they give back to the community by Wall Street.
Oh, wow.
And, if you're from Midland, if you're connected to Midland, if you have roots in Midland, you give back. And it's just kind of you feel so connected. And again, the community gives so much that those companies that are based here really do give back. And, we've got foundations and a handful of large companies. And again, as a person involved in nonprofits, you start seeing kind of new names on your donor list. You're like, man, I gotta go figure who that is. Oh, they're a 2-year-old company that's given, a large portion of their profits back to the community already. Wow. They're getting their feet underneath them. There's 3 or 4 of those right now. And so if you're connected to this community, I think, again, like I am, you have to give back. Yeah. I wish I could give millions and millions of dollars back. We're not there yet. So I give my time and my effort and skills back. But that's Midland in a heartbeat. And, we hear it all the time. People move to Midland and they're kind of unhappy or uncomfortable for about a year. And then all of a sudden they get involved in something that they love. Their kids start playing sports. They get involved in a school. They get involved in extracurricular activities through their jobs. And then they never, ever want to leave. Yeah. And, that just speaks to Midland. Yeah. We're not the prettiest place, but, if you get involved in this town, you're here. And one of the things that's really big on my campaign is we don't have a job creation problem. Okay. Midland's had a below 3% unemployment, I think, for 18 months from the data I looked at the other day. We have a retention problem. We have a lot of families that move here. It takes them a while to get acclimated. And then, they love it, but they also still leave on the weekends. And they also still leave during the summer. We've got to find a way to get Midlanders to want to stay here all the time. Okay. Maybe not all the time, but close to it. Yeah. I've got lots of friends that kids go to Dallas to play soccer and actually El Paso now to play soccer, go to Lubbock to play volleyball. We've got to find a way to get those dollars here and what people want to stay here during the weekends and for the pleasure and for the fun activities also. So that's a big part of what I want to do for Midland is let's bring in some attractions to have people stay here on the weekends. So you make a lot of money in Midland, but then you go to Lubbock or Dallas or Denver or something like that every weekend. And that doesn't really benefit Midland as a whole. And it doesn't feel good that you have to go somewhere to do something, which is what we hear a lot here in Midland. So we mentioned, I mentioned Bass Pro Shop a little while ago, and that got over to Odessa. How much did that type of a decision by a main corporation decide for you to run? Because everything you're talking about right now, like being from the DFW area, right? Looking on the outside in, and God knows I've spent my time out in Midland in West Texas. So I'm one of those guys that comes in, does what I need to and got out. Right. However, when you look at something like Bass Pro Shop going in Odessa and that Marriott that's in Odessa, that's probably now the nicest hotel for the short term. Midland's got one coming. Okay. All right. But what was it about those decisions that were made that made you want to run? Well, and I think Midland is a very unique town, and we really should be kind of the star of West Texas. There's really no reason. We've got resources. We got people that care. We've got companies that'll invest. We got a lot of people that want to invest in Midland. And so we need to figure out how the city can be a major player and kind of be proactive on that. One of the big things on my platform is, again, kind of thinking about where District 1 is, that the Big Spring Highway or 349 going north, I think about 40% of the city's permits have been in our district. On most of them on that side of the town. But there's not a lot of commercial out there. There's the closest supermarket's 3 or 4 miles away, the Market Street. We've got to get some growth, some sustainable growth, commercial stuff out there to make that a livable, pleasant place to live. Like I said, no one wants to spend 15 minutes to go to the grocery store and back in Midland, Texas. It just doesn't make sense, but that's where we are. So we've got to bring some development and some dollars into those other areas. I love that we're developing downtown. Like I said, there is a hotel, actually 2 hotels coming into downtown in the next couple of years that'll really change downtown and have an attraction for people coming in and out of town to be downtown. Yeah. And I think we need to continue that momentum. Restaurants, family attractions, and things like that really need to be the focus of downtown to get people to feel like they can stay here and have fun and raise a family in Midland on the weekends.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. With those things, but the question I really want to ask, but I want to step back before I ask, but the question is, how do you do that? How do you incentivize people? What would be your plan? But before I ask you that, it's like, what are you seeing that is holding it back right now? Let's go with that. What's holding back this city from doing that? Because yes, outside looking in, Midland's obviously the city that people want to go to. Nobody says, "Oh, I'm headed to Odessa." They say, "I'm either headed to West Texas or I'm headed to Midland."
Yep.
So, what is it that's holding Midland back from getting these Market Street, let's say, more HEBs into town? Because I think there may be one.
There's two here
in Midland,
and there's some of the highest grossing in the state. Like those HEBs. Like I said, but we got to get a third one, and that's really where we're at.
How do you get all these companies come and invest more in the town?
Well, and I think Midland needs to kind of get to be a better marketer. And I feel the same way about the oil and gas industry. And we've talked about that on your show actually a few times of we've got to market ourselves differently. Yeah. I think outside of West Texas, people still see Midland as a boom and bust town. Yeah. And we've got to change that. I think especially the oil companies that are based here in Midland have gotten a lot better and more efficient at operating, that those boom and bust shouldn't be as bad. Again, say that with crossing your fingers or knocking on wood. What are you going to do? It's quietly. But those businesses have gotten a lot smarter because those booms and busts hurt. Their business and their growth and their long-term plans. So I think if we can start convincing people outside of West Texas that we're not a boom and bust town, that we're a lot more stable than we've ever been. And also there's other industries in Midland now. So there's a gigantic push for aerospace. And, those are, long-term projects, big projects that once they start, they're going to finish them. And that might be 6, 8, 10 years to finish one of those projects. And that brings a lot of stability to the Midland economy. Yeah. And so I think if we start marketing ourselves a little bit differently and saying, hey, these booms and busts, we hope are a thing of the past. We're managing through them. We're managing them differently. And then look at the dollars, look at the, the wealth and the average pay and that kind of thing. And then those companies will be really, really excited. Costco just announced that they're coming. Yes. And, the guy that's representing Costco in Midland, he said, I think there's 1,600 Costco memberships in Midland. And I was like, that doesn't make any sense. So what I've learned, talking to half of my friends have Costco memberships. Every time they go to Dallas, Fort Worth, or Lubbock, they stop by a Costco. And, they're spending hundreds of dollars at a Costco once a month. Then that money is just made in Midland and spent somewhere else. Yeah. And just Costco by itself, if they can change that, that's a big tax revenue and tax base for Midland. Yeah. And that's kind of what we're talking about. We need to have those here. So you kind of ask what's stopping it. The other thing that I think is awesome about Midland, there are a lot of really neat, like energized, focused groups that want to invest in Midland. Midland's building a zoo that's private. And I think it's the first zoo built in America in like 20 something years. Oh, wow. But Midland's getting a zoo. Like no one else is building new zoos. And we're getting a state-of-the-art, amazing zoo in Midland, Texas, because people want to invest in Midland. And it's not, they could have built that zoo anywhere, but they're Midlanders, they're from Midland, and they want to build a zoo in Midland. And it's just an amazing attraction that's just going to be here in Midland forever, we hope. And it's going to set us apart. And it's because people love Midland, and that's why they're investing in Midland.
You mentioned just now setting us apart, and then I want to combine boom or bust. So I take those two things, setting us apart, boom or bust, and air compressor solutions. Okay. You and your company with your mind and your team, of course.
And my team. They do all the work.
But the boom or bust, you guys have been able to really thrive in a city that is based off of boom or bust. So I want to highlight that because it's very important as you're talking about this is a city more for just boom or bust. What are some of the things that you've learned over your 10 years here in town? Because people think you're a longtime person here. Okay. Whenever I do get a chance to come into town, people are like, well, Bryan, you're like, oh, how many people are like, oh, you've only been here that long?
Yeah.
Because you are so involved. But getting back to the question, boom or bust, what is it that you think you've been able to do to sustain during the bust and really thrive during the booms?
Good question, by the way. So I think there's kind of two things that I believe heavily in, and that we do at ACS. One, it's all about relationships. One of the things that just still to this day amazes me, no matter how big you get or how small you are, if you got good relationships in the oil and gas business, you can go figure it out.
Yeah.
And that's just the business. My father was a petroleum engineer, and that's how it was when I was a kid too. Like, that's one of the things that really excites me about our industry is if you build good relationships and you know your customer and you know your employees, and you know your vendors, you can make it. And you can help each other out during those cycles too, right? And really build on those relationships and help each other out and kind of come through it as a team. And so I think that's very, very interesting. The second thing I'm a big believer in is I started off in the automotive industry, and because I graduated from college in the time that everybody said the oil business is going to be gone in 10 years, don't go to the oil business. And again, they were all liars. I'm really upset I didn't come to the oil business sooner, but they said, don't do it. And so I went to the automotive industry. They have the same cycle. About every 7 years, engine sales drop. Big, heavy equipment sales drop, and they have the same cycle. And actually, amazingly enough, it's usually offset of the oil cycle. So when oil's high, people aren't buying big trucks. People aren't buying cars. People aren't buying engines because they're expensive and the fuel's high.
Yeah.
So it's the same cycle. And kind of what I learned is as soon as you look and learn the economics, you just have to prepare. You have to have a good plan. And one of my big beliefs is my leadership team, they need to be thinking half a cycle ahead all the time. So if you're at the peak and, we think this is as good as it's going to get, my team's really challenged to get me a plan for what the bottom looks like.
Yeah.
Who's critical? How do we cut expenses? How do we keep employees? How do we keep customers? How do we keep operations? How do we keep the lights on? And then when we get towards that bottom, they owe me a plan for the top.
Okay.
What people do we need? What resources do we need? How do we need to grow? What markets are we going to focus on? And so that's how I think an oil business needs to run. They need to be half a cycle. So about 4 years is a good working thing. As soon as you see the crest and it starts going down, you're like, okay, here's the deck of cards we're already going to play. And then at the bottom, you're like, okay, here's our 5 things that we got to do right now to get in front of it.
Yeah.
And that's really been a really amazing conversation that we've had inside ACS of man, if you're always half a cycle ahead,
Yeah.
kind of trust your employees, take care of the day-to-day, take care of the customers. We need to go focus on what that half a cycle looks like.
Well, with half a cycle, you're running for District 1.
Yep.
What are some things that you want to, let's not, what are some things that you want to shake up or work at getting ahead of when on city council for Midland?
So again, I think growth is hard, and it always will be, because again, we talked about this. It's always 100 decisions. You got to realize you're going to be wrong at most of them, but you got to make a step forward and see if it's right.
No.
And adjust as needed. So again, the growth of Midland. Again, I'm a big believer. Our unemployment rate's going to stay about where it is. Oil, we've gotten better operators. We've gotten better management of our money. So if all that plays out, we're going to continue to grow, and we've got to do things like make sure our infrastructure is right. The city's working through an additional water deal right now, which is critical. I laugh that this is what Midland is, right? We had a 100-year water plan 10 years ago.
Okay.
And we need another 100-year water plan because we're going to run out of water that we thought that was going to last us for 100 years. But that's a problem with growth. We've got the Fireman Pension Fund is a big deal. We need to make sure that's funded and those guys are taken care of, and really make sure we're managing that group, because that's critical to growth. Also, we have to be able to recruit and retain good firefighters and staff new fire stations when we need them, and do that kind of work. And again, growing that Big Spring 349 corridor. Again, that's where all the growth is. City Council just passed an annexation for, I don't remember the number now, 1,200 homes or something like that out there.
Oh, wow.
But there's so many homes out there, and they're driving 15 minutes to the grocery store, and there's couple gas stations and a couple, strip mall kind of things out there. But we really need good commercial space out there for those homes and for those people to really feel like they're part of Midland and not having to drive to downtown to do anything. Okay. And then downtown growth, I think the last couple of years we've done a lot. But I think we need to make sure the 2 hotels that we have on the books are built, and then start growing around those. So people are starting to talk about a 3rd hotel, and I don't think it's quite time yet. Let's get these built. Let's make sure they're full. Make sure we're bringing in the people that we need to bring in, and make sure the attractions and the reasons to come downtown are built around them. So,
are you afraid to tell the mayor no in this town?
I wouldn't say that.
I don't know who it is.
Yes, Mayor Blong, like I said, fortunately, I think she's the reason a lot of this stuff has come to light.
Okay.
I'm very amazed at how she's taken on some really hard subjects like the Fireman Pension Fund that has kind of been not addressed like it should have been in the last few years. But she said, no, we're going to address it. We're going to fix it because this is good for Midland. And like I said, I don't agree with her on everything, but I definitely agree with her approach that she dives in and she says, I'm going to own this until it's fixed because it's right for Midland. Yeah. And I think if more politicians had that attitude, things would be a lot different everywhere. And I think with my skills as a problem solver and a business owner, and just the passion I have for Midland, that's what I want to do. Hey, if there's a problem, let's go dive it in. Let's go figure it out. Let's go see if we can fix it, make it better for everybody.
Community, it's like it starts at the community level and then it goes out. So I cannot disagree with that at all. Bryan, it's easy for me because, 1, I don't live in this town. 2, you're a sponsor of the show. And 3, you're a mentor and a friend. So obviously, if I lived here, you got my belief. But for everybody out there that doesn't, 1, normally vote, or 2, doesn't know who to go with just because they may not know who you are or the other person running, because I don't know who why do they want to vote for you, and what do they expect from you? Because somehow people like expectations these days.
They do. I'm a big fan of expectations for myself. We've talked about this before too. Please hold me accountable. I like it. It's the crazy part. That's how I get better and how I grow and how I help people around me grow. Reason to vote for me though is I think I bring a very unique mindset of Midland. Again, a business owner in this town. It's just amazing. Again, the support that you get. But also there's the challenges, the oil and gas business has very high expectations of their vendors. And us trying to grow and meet those expectations at the same time. I just bring a lot of experience, I think, through that. Again, I'm an engineer by schooling and I did engineering for a while. So I actually really enjoy diving into hard problems and solving them. Like I said, we talked about Fireman Pension Fund, the stuff that's going on with the Rancho Hills Golf Course. It's complicated. We need some legal advice, but at the end of the day, we still need to sit down across the table from each other and talk about what we need to do as a city. And then again, the growth, where do you spend your money? Where do you focus? It can't all be downtown, but it can't all be this area. It can't be that area. We've got to figure out a way to kind of do what's right for the city. And again, those are hard decisions. And that's really where what I think I bring to Midland. And then again, I think my nonprofit work, I've gotten to see some other sides of Midland that not everybody gets to see. And we've got to figure out a way to focus on everybody in Midland. Like I said, it is a hard place to live just because, work is hard. Like I said, we don't have all the resources we should, and we got to make sure we're making that an easier life for everybody in Midland. So, yeah.
I can't believe you're running. I mean, and the reason why is because you're the right person to do it.
Well, thank you.
If that makes any sense. It's like, because usually the right people that you want to run are never going to run.
Yeah.
And I think you're that right guy to really do more, because we've joked about it. Mm-hmm. And it's like, so what's next? Yep. Because you're not afraid to talk to the Cradocks or the Sparks and sit there and mince it out and have a good conversation, because I think all 3 of y'all want to see nothing but success for West Texas as a whole.
Yeah, and like I said, and especially those people, I mean, it's just amazing to talk and see what they're trying to do, kind of from the next level or 2 levels up. And again, they get to see a bigger picture of kind of some of the challenges and roadblocks that Midland and West Texas have to grow. And getting in it, like I said, I guess I don't have any aspirations for city council, because city council's, where you kind of get to roll up your sleeves and really start to get your hands dirty and fix some real problems. And even things like growth. How do you get people to grow and move to Midland? And, that's super excited me. And, I think the tides are kind of changing both in Austin, Railroad Commission, definitely, and even in Washington, D.C., somewhat of what West Texas means, why it's unique, why are our kind of hurdles unique, and then how do we get over those? So, again, I think Pfluger's doing an amazing job of
Pfluger too.
representing. And talking to him a few times, the representation that he does for West Texas is really amazing. And I think he's gotten us on the map in a lot of people's minds that would have never thought about us.
Well, let me ask you this. For people out there that are thinking about moving to Midland, why don't you, instead of doing anything else, give them a pitch on why they should move to Midland?
Pitch to move to Midland. Yeah. Well, like I said, it is really an amazing town. I tell everybody, I lived a few places before this. I've been married for 21 years. But when we moved to Midland, it took about 2 months for us to look at each other and go, this is home.
Yeah.
I told this story at a forum the other day. My youngest son was sitting there. My youngest son is a little extroverted, and he's very passionate about a few things. He knows what he wants to do when he grows up. He's 13 years old. He's an amazing young man. And through our church, through some of my activities, through my wife's job and some of her activities, and just getting involved in this town. If I had to sit down and count, I think my youngest son has 30 people he calls grandparent. And he has that type of relationship with that number of people. We go to church and we don't see him. He's 13. And I was always thinking he'd go sit with people his age, but no, he's sitting with somebody who's 60, whatever, because they're interested in his life and they've connected with him. Yeah. And he's connected, and he has that same connection. My son is part of a club. He's the youngest member. I'm almost the second youngest member. But every one of the people in that club have almost adopted my son. And the interactions, the things he learns, because again, it takes a community to raise a kid. But just having him be active he's seen different things, and he's experienced things that most 13-year-olds would never dream of, just because he's made connections inside of Midland. And the amount of things that my sons and my family and my wife have gotten just because we're involved in this town is just unreal. Yeah. And that's why we live in Midland. Again, if you get connected to the community, the giving and the attitude of Midland is just amazing. And like I said, in my mind, it's just the awesome place to raise a family. You can't beat it. So
wow. November 5th?
November 5th.
Okay.
Yep. We'll be out walking blocks on Saturdays, maybe a couple other days. We've got a couple events on our website. Go check those out. Our website's bryanstubbs.vote, which again, I didn't know you could do .vote, but it's super easy to remember. We're on Facebook and Instagram, Stubbs for City Council on Facebook. It's the easy one to find. You can follow my personal LinkedIn account. We do a lot of stuff on that one too.
Yes, you do.
So we've got some events coming up. We actually just did one. We did another podcast on Wednesday, and that was a lot of fun. There's a forum this Monday for the Board of Realtors. I'll be on the Kicks FM on Tuesday morning. So
all right.
So yeah,
you're getting out there.
Yeah. Well, again, that's how you win in Midland. It's all about relationships, all about meeting people, and it's been a lot of fun the last couple of weeks.
I think it's been really cool. I remember, I think it's been awesome.
Yeah.
And I can't do nothing but, like everybody knows, your name's before, your company, so I support. I wish you good luck, and I think you're going to do more. But
one last thing, while I was walking over here, I thought about this. So when you're on Saturday Night Live, the 5th time, you get a nice jacket.
Oh, what?
I think this is my 4th time. I'm just letting you know.
4th time?
I'm just letting you know. I think this is my 4th time. So it's something. Saturday Night Live, they get a really nice jacket, and there's a club. Have you ever seen the skits?
Are you being for real? Because I'm just
letting you know. It's just information.
So I'll probably get this one out because obviously I know people before JP Warren. So shout out to JP Warren.
Yes, thank you.
He's not supporting Bryan, but he probably would be if he knew. But
JP's awesome to talk to. He does a great job on social media too for our industry.
I just got done doing a podcast with him, and I think it's between you, JP Warren, Jim Holmes.
Yep.
and Brianna Johnson, who's also from
Yep.
here in town. So yes, when the fifth person, no, we talked about that I will have a five timers with smoking jacket with the number 5 right there. That is hilarious.
I thought about that while I was walking up here. I was like, I think it's my 4th time.
Yes, no. Whoever it is next, whoever first time, and we're gonna make it a big deal.
I'm cool. I'm available next week.
I need you to win first.
Okay,
No,
I'm okay with that too.
Well, Bryan, one more time for everybody out there, how can they get a hold of you guys?
Yeah, Bryan Stubbs. I'm running for City Council District 1 in Midland, North Midland. Our website is bryanstubbs.vote. You can follow us on Facebook, Stubbs for City Council. We're on Instagram, my personal account on LinkedIn. Like I said, we've got a lot of events coming up. Like I said, volunteers are great and just love getting out and meeting people.
Oh, man. Well, Bryan, I cannot thank you enough. You got me to Midland.
Thanks for coming. Thanks for having me on again.
Record this. Thank you for always, and thank you for your support. And this is obviously something that I know that you're passionate about. You are doing so many great things already. Here in the community, I don't see this not being to do anything less. So for those of you out there that don't know Bryan, if you got to reach out to me, reach out to his team at Air Compressor Solutions. And again, I do want to say thank you to Ryan Shuchuk.
Yep.
If I said that right. Thank you, Ryan Shuchuk, again, for allowing us to use your amazing studios here in West Texas, in Midland, which is a proud supporter of Bryan Stubbs. So thank you all so much. And thank you to all the listeners out there. And we'll see you again on another episode of The Crude Truth.
Again, The Crude Truth would like to thank today's sponsors: LFS Chemistry, NAPE Expo, Air Compressor Solutions, Sandstone Group, Exec Crew, Texas Star Alliance, Pecos Country Operating, and Real News Communication Network.
The easiest way to start your own podcast and TV show? Real News Communications Network. Stand out from your competition. Produce streams of high-quality social media content. Become a thought leader in your industry. With RNCN, you get to be the host. We handle everything else. Tour one of our 3 locations in Dallas, Fort Worth, and the Colony. Call 972-402-6333 or visit launchashow.com to find out more.